No matter how you slice it, trading cryptocurrency takes time. Whether you're spending all day on the 5-minute chart or an hour a day on the daily, you do have to sacrifice your personal time to trade. And as one progresses through their trading journey, you are inevitably going to begin to identify strategies and opportunities that you simply can't catch. You just aren't going to have the time. For example, in your backtesting, you might discover a killer strategy that works great on the 15-minute chart in periods of high volatility, but you know that you can't actually make the time commitment to sit there and grind it out for hours on end. You might have a job, a family, or something really rare for cryptocurrency traders, a social life. Now, I've previously written about how we can use 3Commas, which is a third-party trading platform, to automate our favorite strategies with TradingView alerts. But I have recently discovered something game-changing. And if you're like me, your position size will vary from trade to trade based on your stop-loss placement. And if you're also like me, your take profit and stop loss will vary from trade to trade based on the average true range. And up until now, I thought I could only use 3Commas to automate simple strategies because I couldn't automate my dynamic position sizing and stop and target placement. I knew I could never really just set it and forget it with my real strategies on 3Commas. That is until now. While working with some code the other week, I started playing around with a few interesting ideas. And those ideas led me to frantically emailing 3Commas support to validate that my ideas had merit. And they comfortably responded that my ideas were correct and I could do what I wanted to do. And it was on. So after a few late nights of coding, I finally did it. I finally completely automated my primary strategy with 3Commas, including dynamic position sizes and stop and target placement. So let me show you how I did it. To begin, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need a TradingView account, of course. You're going to need a 3Commas account. You don't need a paid account for 3Commas. You can use a completely free account for 3Commas to do this. And you're also going to need an exchange account. Of course, I recommend Bybit. So if you have those 3 requirements, we can get started automating strategies. So the first part of this tutorial is going to be setting up our exchange, specifically how we need it. I'm going to be writing this guide from the viewpoint of someone using Bybit. If you're using a different exchange or broker, the setup process may be a little different, and you'll have to improvise if things are dramatically different from Bybit. First, we're going to set up a sub-account on Bybit. This way, we can isolate our automated trades to this sub-account. This is going to make it a lot easier to stay on top of the money that we have allocated to our strategy than if it was in the same account that we were taking manual trades. To do this is pretty simple. In Bybit, you just go up to the top right-hand corner and click on Settings, go to Account and Security, and then you go to the Sub-Account mini tab here. And you will see all these sub-accounts that you have created. So we're just going to click on Create Sub-Account. Now you can select standard or custom. Standard will allow you to log into this account from your main account with just the click of a button. Custom will let you set your own password and 2-factor authentication for the account. It's your choice. I'm personally going to go with standard for the purposes of this tutorial, as I do my best to use best practices for OPSEC with my main account, and you'd have to get into my main account to be able to get into my sub account. So we're just going to click standard. And we're going to name our sub account. You name it something relevant to you. In this particular example, I'm going to be automating the volume weighted moving average, simple moving average strategy that I showed you guys in the previous week's mentoring session. So, okay, so VWMA SMA 01. That's what we're going to call it. And automated strategy account for VWMA SMA account on 3Commas. Okay, and just give it a remark. So again, I just named my strategy here something that's relevant to me. And I gave it a remark that is going to be relevant that I'll remember later on down the road. And we just click confirm. Boom. And we've got a sub account. Okay, so now that we've got our sub account, we can see it right down here. We need to transfer some funds into this account. So we can just click transfer asset right here. And we can deposit how much we want our automated strategy to use. For this tutorial, I'm only going to be using $100, and I will show you how to use margin to take larger trades. But if this is your first time, start with something small. So if you make a mistake, it's not going to be a big mistake. So I have my money in my spot account. I am going to be moving it into derivatives, and I'm going to be selecting USDT. And $100. Now you'll notice that I am depositing into derivatives. That is because I use USDT margin futures on Bybit as my main avenue of trading. If you prefer to trade spot, transfer them to spot. USDC, transfer them to USDC derivatives. Whatever markets you are going to be trading. All right, now we funded our account with a click of a button. Now we're going to need to create an API key so we can link our 3Commas account to Bybit. To do this, we're going to need to click on API management right here next to transfer assets. And we click on create new key. And in the API setup screen, there are a lot of options here. So don't get confused. I will break all this down for you. We're going to simply click connect to third-party application. And then we are going to select 3Commas, which is the top one. And this bot is going to need to enter trades. So we do have to give it read and write access to our account. Now, for the specific permissions, my approach is to only give something access to do something that I want it to do. Since I'm only going to be using this bot to do USDT trading, there's no need to give it any additional permissions than what it needs to do that. So you can copy my settings that I'm about to do or input your own based on what markets you want the bot to trade. So what we're going to do is we are going to first start by just clicking and giving all of them permissions. And then we're going to take ones away. So account transfer. Nope, we don't want it to account transfer. We don't want it to trade spot. We do want it to trade derivatives. I do. I don't want it to trade USDC. And I want it to be able to query and open orders and query and modify positions. So that's it. So we'll just click submit. And we've got our key. Now, this next part is very important. Do not navigate away from this page. Do not click understood, even if you understand what's on the screen. We need to complete the next part of this process before we get rid of the stuff. For now, we're going to open up a new browser tab and we're going to go to our 3Commas account. We're going to use that API information to link our 3Commas account to our new Bybit sub account. This part of the tutorial, we're going to be setting up the 3Commas DCA bot. We've got our exchange configured properly. We've got our exchange account configured so that we can isolate our automated trades to one particular sub account. So we don't have to worry about clogging up our main discretionary trading account with those signals or those trades. And now we're going to set up our 3Commas DCA bot to be able to process the signals that we're going to be sending to it from TradingView, so it can then send those signals to Bybit to do the thing. So first thing we're going to do in 3Commas is navigate to my portfolio in the top left. Then we are going to click on connect account. Then we're going to select exchanges and we're going to select Bybit. If you're using a different exchange, then select that exchange. Boom. Now, we're going to give this a relevant name. This is going to be BWMA SMA Automated Strategy. And now we can go back to Bybit, grab our API key, ping, grab our API secret, ping. By the way, never, ever, 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 ever let anybody see your API key and API secret that you're actually using to trade real money. Don't do it. And then we just select Connect Bybit. And again, what is my strategy? I only give things permission or access to things that they actually need. So in this case, it does not need access to inverse perpetual. It does not need access to spot. It only needs access to USDT perpetual. This also has another added benefit. I highly recommend only selecting the markets you're actually going to trade. as you will be able to see all the options you select here in the dropdown in Smart Trade and for your DCA bot. It's fine if you want to. There's not a danger from doing this per se, but it is very annoying to constantly have to scroll past useless information. So now we'll just hit add and we can see we've automatically connected to the account. It can see that the $100 that we already deposited in there is in there and we are good to go. Now we just need to set up our DCA bot. From this point, you can use 3Commas Smart Trade feature to trade the funds that we have on that sub account manually, but we came here to automate. So next we're going to set up our DCA bot to do just that. So we're going to go to DCA bot right here. And we're going to give our bot a name. In this case, I'm going to be taking trades on Link USDT because that is one of the most profitable markets that I have done the work for the VWMA strategy. So I'm going to name it VWMA SMA Link USDT long strategy. Give the bot a name that is relevant to what you are doing. And under exchange, we only have one exchange connected here. So that is our VWMA SMA automated strategy. For your example, it would be whatever you want it to be. And then we are going to select Link as the pair we are going to trade. This is going to be a single pair bot. I am going to be doing this guide from the perspective of someone setting up a single pair bot. You can run this same strategy across multiple pairs, multiple coins, with a multi-pair bot. It's a little bit more involved and there's a few more steps. So we're going to start off simple and we're just going to do a single pair bot. And you guys let me know, honestly, if there's enough desire for me to write a separate guide on setting up a multi-pair bot, then I will consider doing that. For now, we're just going to select single pair and we're going to select the pair we want to trade. For me, I'm going to be selecting Link USDT. And then for direction, I'm going to be selecting long. You guys select whatever direction that you guys want to trade in. We want to be taking profit in the quote currency, and we want to set, here's the thing. Now for base order, we want to set our base order to the smallest size possible. So for me, that's going to be 1. I really mean it. The smallest amount that it will let you put in this box. This is going to make more sense later because we're going to be using TradingView to size up to our correct position size based on our risk management strategy. Now note, this amount is going to be different for different assets. For example, the smallest tradable amount on Link for Bybit is 6863. So that's the minimum order size available for Link USDT, and that's exactly what we want. But on Bitcoin, it's about $18. So pay attention to those differences because that will change based on what you put in. For start order type, I'm going to use limit because it will save me on fees. You can select market if you want to, but again, I'm going to be saving on fees. And the strategies that I normally run are going to be daily time frame or meso time frame strategies. So now for leverage, I'm going to select cross. And if you're using a single pair bot on a single asset, cross or isolated are going to work the exact same. But cross can help. That way you don't get into margin errors. There are pros and cons to both of this, and I don't have the time in this guide to delve on all of the things that go into isolated versus cross margin. Long story short, cross margin will allow the funds not allocated to the trade, so the excess funds in your trading account, to be tapped into to fund your margin so your position doesn't get liquidated. Whereas with isolated margin, whatever money you put in, if you reach your liquidation price, the trade's over and you're going to be liquidated. Now, I am going to be selecting 3x leverage. Again, we're going to be automating a daily time frame strategy, so 3x is very sufficient. This is all going to depend on what strategy you're automating. You need to know what the average distance to your stop loss is. So very simple math. If you're using 10x leverage, a 10% price movement will liquidate you. Okay. If you're using 5x leverage, a 20% price movement will liquidate you. If you're using 2x leverage, it's a 50% movement. 25x leverage, it's a 4% movement. 50x leverage, it's a 2% movement. Okay, so select your leverage based on how much leverage you actually need to take the correct position sizes that you're going to be getting. Now, if that doesn't make sense, you're going to see those position sizes here in a little bit when we get over the trading view part. So just bear with me. For now, select a reasonable leverage and let's carry on. For deal start condition, we want to select TradingView custom signal. And if this is your first time setting up a TradingView custom signal, again, I'm going to walk you through how to do all of it, but you can click this box right here and it will explain it to you. But honestly, it's not super intuitive. So that's why this guide exists. Now, moving down here, what setting is right for you? Or sorry, kind of revisiting the topic of leverage here again. What setting is right for you is going to depend on your average stop loss distance, right? If you're botting a meso or a lower time frame strategy, you can increase the leverage so you can take larger positions with a tighter stop. For daily strategies with a wider stop loss, 3 to 5x leverage is where it's at. But again, be careful. If you get the setting wrong, you could get liquidated. So selecting TradingView custom signal for our deal start. Now, when we get down to our take profit, we want to set this to a ridiculously high number. We are not going to be relying on 3Commas take profit order. We're going to be using TradingView to enter and exit our trades. So I'm going to set this to 50%. Be really nice if it got filled, right? Yeah. We are not going to enable a stop loss. Again, we're not going to be using 3Commas native stop loss function to handle our position. We're going to be using TradingView. And then we're going to basically disable safety order size by setting max safety order count to 0 and max active safety order count to 0. We're not going to be using safety orders. Again, you can play around with these and modify your strategy however you want. But for this purpose, we're going to disable those. Now, I don't need any advanced settings. You probably don't either, but they're there if you want them. Adjust as makes sense for your strategy. All right, we are all done here. Let's click on Create Bot, and then we can go ahead and click on Start Bot. Don't worry, it's not going to do anything since we're not sending any TradingView signals to it yet. We're going to do that here in just a second. So we're good. All right, now you're going to see a page like this. Now scroll down to the bottom of the page and you're going to see all of these messages. All right, each one of these messages is a custom code that you will paste into your TradingView alert when we get there to do certain things. All right, and that'll all make sense here in just a few minutes. There are 3 messages that we are going to use. We're going to use this top one, which is the deal start signal. We're going to use the second one, which is the message to close order at market price. And we're going to use this one, which is the message for deal add fund signal in the quote currency. So we're going to be using this to start our trade. We're going to be using this to close our trade. And we're going to be using this to get to our correct position size. All right. Now you can click on the blue hypertext link right here. Click here, click here. Or you can click the drop down and click here, and it will copy that message to your clipboard. Either way, leave this page open for now. And now we're going to head to TradingView. And once we're done, our strategy is going to be fully automated. So far, we have set up our Subaccount and Bybit to segregate our trades. We've set up our 3Commas DCA bot to handle the signals that we're now going to send to it with TradingView. Now all that's left to do is create a strategy in TradingView, put in the right code for the signals, and set our alerts. So we're in TradingView, and the first thing we need to do is we got to do all of this in Pine. All right, so we're going to hit Pine Editor here at the bottom. And you are going to need a strategy for this to work. So we're going to hit open and we're going to click on create new strategy, and it's going to kind of create an automatic strategy for me here. If you haven't coded your own strategy up, you can take the time to do that. So click pause, go code up strategy, and then come back. Or you can just grab some open source strategies from TradingView. There's lots of good ones out there that you can modify to suit your purposes. And I've created a lot of content on how to write strategies and given out a lot of strategy codes. So you can check out all the videos on YouTube or in the premium library if you want some guidance. Again, if you don't have one yet, don't worry, you can keep watching because the concepts I'm going to show you will likely allow you to take whatever you do have and start trading it automatically with just a few tweaks. This is the VWMA SMA divergence detector strategy that I showed you guys how to code last week or in the previous video. And this is a profitable strategy on the daily time frame. Again, this is the same strategy I showed you how to create in my last video. The first thing to point out is that this is a TradingView strategy, not an indicator. You can do what I'm about to show you with an indicator, but I find it better and easier to do it with a strategy. One reason that we want to do this with a strategy as opposed to an indicator is for our dynamic position sizing. We want to make sure that in our strategy header here, we have this argument called initial capital. We want to make sure that we set that to our actual account size, the money that we actually have in our trading account, so that everything works properly. You can always change this later on in the settings. You can click on the settings tab for your indicator and go to properties and change your initial capital right there. Okay. But you can also set it by default in the strategy header, which is what we are going to do. So I'm going to, I've already obviously coded all of this, but I'm going to show you how to do it by, I've created a new strategy over here. So I am going to copy over the strategy header and then explain that. So again, we need to make sure that our initial capital argument and our strategy header is equal to our actual account balance. So in my example, I funded my sub account with $100. So for this initial capital argument, I'm going to put in $100. So the first thing we want to do, I'm just going to copy over this strategy code, and then I'm going to explain to you what it all does. So I am going to just paste over this. We're not going to need any of this. I'm just going to go ahead and delete all this for now. All right, so you start off any TradingView strategy with the strategy argument. Give it a title. That's the title argument. Give it a short title. The difference between title and short title is title's what's going to show up kind of in your open list. If you click open here, you see all the strategies you saved, whereas your short title is what's going to display right here on the screen. Okay. Overlay true. That means this indicator is going to display data on the price chart, not in an underlay indicator like the relative strength index or the RSI. Our initial capital is, as I said, the amount that we have in our account. Currency, USD. If you're using a different currency, if you're from another country, you would replace that. Default quantity type. In fact, we're just going to delete that. Calc on every tick, false. Pyramiding 1. Calc on order fills, false. All that is just makes the strategy run a little bit smoother. If you guys get into strategy creation, you might want to modify that as suits your purpose, but those are kind of the default settings that I always use for strategies. And then we are coding in commission so that we can actually see realistic data with our backtesting. We haven't accounted for slippage here, but you can also code that in if you want. One of the best strategies that I do is I look at what my average slippage is over my live running strategies over a period of time, and then I use that and I take the average of it. Strategy commission percent, meaning the commission that we're paying is as a percentage, and Bybit charges 0.06% commission for market orders. So we're going to be using limits, so our actual live results should be a little bit better than what we see, but that difference should also help account for slippage. Margin long, 0, which means we need 0% margin. And this is just to make sure that if we're doing automation here, we're not really going to get into the backtesting part of it. We've already done that in a bunch of videos. But that just makes sure that the strategy doesn't think we need more money than we need to do the thing. And then precision 8, that's more for debugging when we get into our values. You guys may or may not need that. But if you get into a situation where you are looking in the data window at your indicator arguments and you're trying to make sure that your position size is correct, and you can't see it because TradingView rounds up, change your precision to a larger number and you'll be able to see a lot more. Okay, that's pretty simple. The next thing we need to do is we're just going to grab the indicator code for the VWMA SMA, and you guys can just grab this from my last blog post on the website, or you can grab this from the VWMA SMA video on YouTube. Or this code was also, if you're a premium member, this code was also in the newsletter that we sent out, the last newsletter that we sent out. So this code's fairly easy to find. You can also just search for it on TradingView. This is the VWMA SMA code by Profit Programmer. Okay, the part of magic here, and I went over this in the VWMA SMA video, but make sure that your strategy has this ATR code in it. This is going to be the backbone of how we're going to be calculating position sizes. So this is just very simple. We've created a variable that references the current value of the ATR. And then we've created our TP argument, which is ATR times 1, and our stop loss argument, which is 1.5. Now, a 3Commas bot can only handle one direction. So we're going to be coding up a strategy for a long bot, meaning our strategy will only go long when we get a long signal. As I previously showed in the previous video, this strategy is a long and short strategy. If you want your strategy to be automated in both directions, you're going to need to create 2 3Commas bots, 1 long bot and 1 short bot. Then in Bybit, you'll need to make sure that the market you want to trade on is set to hedge mode. You can find this in the settings when you're on the correct market on the right-hand side. You just simply click and select hedge mode. You will have to set each individual market you want to trade to hedge mode. Whether you're using a multi-bot or a single pair bot, if you want your bot to go long and short on it. So for this tutorial, we're just going to set up the long bot with long signals. If you want to trade both directions, then in 3Commas, just set up an identical bot to the one we set up before, but this time make it a short bot. Then you'll come back to TradingView and follow this process that we're about to go through, but with short signals. And this will all make more sense in a few minutes. Okay, now it's time to start putting in some new code. So we've got our ATR calculations, and then we have our strategy backtest limiting algorithm so that we can control where it's backtesting. And we're not going to get too much into backtesting, but we're just going to port that code over. It doesn't hurt anything. This is just establishing a start time and an end time for our backtest, and then a time condition, meaning that we'll only take trades if current time is within the time frame that we've described. So our start time is 2018 and our end time is 2099. So any future trades will go. One thing that I like to do, and you can do this after we save all this, is in the settings, go ahead and change your start time to the date and time you're actually starting your strategy. So that way your backtesting results actually line up with your live trading results, which is good to have. All right. And then of course, we already, in the previous video, we already coded in our trading signal, which in this case is going to be slow up cross. There we go. Slow up cross, as that was the out of the box profitable signal from last week's video. And again, I would just want to point out that the medium crosses were the most consistent, but this was the one that was profitable out of the box. So we're going to be automating the profitable out of the box one. Previously, again, we had been using this SL long, SL short, TP long, TP short for our back test. We're not going to be able to use that for our automated strategy. We'll run into problems if we do that with actual live trades. So we're just going to comment that code out. We don't need it. And first, we need to create our own exit signals so we can have our TradingView strategy initiate our take profits and stop loss orders. Remember, we are not going to rely on the native functions on 3Commas. So to begin, we're going to create a variable that describes where our take profit is going to be and how it's going to be measured from our entry price. So we already know what our entry trigger is. So we're going to start by initializing a variable called long take level to 0.0. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new section called take profit and stop loss. And we're going to create a new variable called long take level. And we are initially going to initialize it to 0.0. And the reason we're doing 0.0 and not just 0 is that initializes it as a float rather than an integer or a bool, which will allow us to use decimals because we're going to be using decimals. Then we're going to write some code that will allow the value of our long take level variable to change depending on certain conditions. This condition is going to be when we have a slow up cross, which is our entry trigger. So let me show you what that looks like. That's going to look like long take level again, and then colon equals. And this code works by using what I call the mutate function, which is colon equals, which means change the value of a variable by whatever comes after the mutate function. In this example, we're initially setting long take level to 0, but whenever there is going to be a slow up cross, so now we're going to type slow up cross question mark, which just means, was there a slow up cross? Okay, if so, it's going to change the signal to close plus TP. Otherwise, long take level, left bracket, 1 right bracket. Okay, all this code, this is very simple. All this means is that we're going to initially, long take level is initially going to be 0.0. But whenever there's a slow up cross, our trading signal, it's going to mutate, change into whatever the closing price is at the time of the signal, which is our entry price ideally, plus our take profit distance, which is the ATR times 1. So we're adding the value of the ATR times 1, so just the value of the ATR, to our entry price. That's where our take profit level is going to be. Then that last part, colon long take level 1, just means unless if there hasn't been a slow up cross, then long take level just equals what it did on the previous bar. And that part is actually very important because that is what is going to allow the value of our long take level to persist after we have a trading signal, but before we're out of the trade, so that it doesn't change. That would be bad. Okay. So remember, in our last video, we created the ATR stop and target code to use multiples against the value of the ATR to measure our stop and take profit values. And if you're finding this part confusing, just rewatch that video. It'll all make a whole lot more sense. Yeah, and just to reiterate, that last part of our code, long take level 1, simply means that if there hasn't been a slow up cross, we want to keep the value of long take level at whatever it was on the previous bar. This will allow your take profit value to persist over the course of a long trade without resetting or changing during our trade. That would be bad. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing for our stop loss order. We're going to create a variable called long stop level, and we are going to initialize it to 0. And then we're going to write a mutating function, that's what I call it, to change it whenever we get a trading signal. The difference is we're going to say slow up cross, then close minus SL. Otherwise, long stop level. What that means, left bracket 1, right bracket, means on the previous bar. On the previous bar, it's a time series function. Okay, so again, we've got slow. If there's been a trading signal, we're going to measure our take profit 1 ATR above. And if we have a trading signal, we're going to measure our stop loss 1.5 ATR below. Pretty simple. All right, now we are going to jump down to kind of the last part of our code, which is going to be our strategy stuff. And we're just going to put this all the way down here for a little bit. Strategy stuff. And we are going to write our strategy exit real quick. This might be kind of jumping ahead, but don't worry. So we're going to write strategy exit, and then in quotes, long exit, excuse me. And then from underscore entry equals long. That's what our long trade is going to be. And then we're going to do limit equals long take level, and stop, STOP, equals long stop level. This is the code that will actually force our strategy to exit when our take profit is reached or our stop loss is reached. And I did forget one little thing. When strategy.position size is greater than 0. Not necessary, but it's just a bit of a failsafe. So this will only work when we're actually in a trade. Okay, cool. So far, so good. So we've got our strategy exit, and we have pointed it at what our actual take profit and stop loss are going to be. Now, as a reminder, again, this function is what tells our strategy to exit. Here, we're simply telling it that once we are in a long trade, we want to exit at our take profit price or at our stop loss price, whichever happens first. Okay, next we need to write the code for our dynamic position sizing based on ATR. If you're not familiar with the pathways to profit method, we use the average true range to establish our stop loss, which is what we've already done. With the knowledge of where our stop loss is, we're able to adjust our position size based on how much we want to risk per trade. The math is fairly simple. Our position size is simply the amount we enter into the trade, such that if we were to hit our stop loss, we would lose our risk amount. Our risk amount is the dollar value we're willing to lose per losing trade, and this allows us to survive a losing streak and manage our bankroll effectively. Now, I tend to use 2 to 5% risk per trade, depending on the time frame and strategy involved. That means if I'm trading at 2% risk and I hit my stop loss, I lose 2% of my account. This is the best way I know of to manage risk, and it's absolutely essential for long-term success as a trader, managing your capital like this. Okay, so let's take all those concepts and put them into code. Let's create a new section called position sizing. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called initial capital. And we are going to set that equal to our strategy starting capital by calling a built-in TradingView function that is strategy.initial capital. You guys can see it turned red. Red means it's built into TradingView, and strategy.initial capital is literally what is right here. That is what it's calling. So in this case, initial capital in our header is set to $100. So that means whenever we call the initial capital variable, it's going to call $100. Okay, this is why it's critical to set our actual account balance as our initial capital in the strategy header like we did in the beginning. Next, we are going to create another variable called balance that will track our equity as our strategy wins and loses. We are going to set this equal to the sum of our initial capital. So we're just going to reference our initial capital variable that we just made, plus whatever gains or losses our strategy incurs by using another TradingView built in, which is strategy.net profit. Strategy net profit will be the cumulative sum of all the gains or losses that your strategy produces in its lifetime. So as we continue to run this forward, it will add up or subtract all of our losses or gains. Now we're going to write another variable called risk. And we're going to set this equal to our desired risk percentage. Again, this is the percent of our account that we want to risk per trade. I am going to set mine to 2%. So that would be 0.02. Okay. If you guys want to use less or more, change it here. Again, if this is your first time, I recommend using a significantly small percentage, 1% or less. Finally, we're going to calculate the dollar amount of a potential loss by creating a variable called loss, which we're going to set equal to our current account balance multiplied by our risk percentage. Okay. So loss equals balance times risk. For example, if our current balance is $100, which it is, and we risked 2% on a trade and lost, we would lose $2. 100 times 0.02 equals 2, or 2% of 100 is $2. So now we have a few more steps so we can translate this into the actual position size our strategy will take. First, we're going to create a variable that stores our actual entry price, and then we'll create another variable that stores the distance to our stop loss as a decimal, which our code will need to properly accept our desired position size. So we're going to create a variable called value at close, and this is going to equal ta.valueN, which is a TradingView function. And we're going to say our entry signal, which is slow up cross, close 0. Okay. All this means is what this function does is whenever there's a slow up cross, it will grab closing price at that moment on the current instance. So not the last time it happened, this time it's happening, which is what the 0 is for. And it will store that value in our value at close variable. So whenever we want to know what was our entry price, we can call our value at close. Okay, so that's value at close. And then distance to stop is going to be our next variable. And this is going to be math.abs, which is absolute value. Absolute value means if you have a negative number, it will return a positive number. So if you have -1 and 1, they're the same. Value at close minus long stop level. So divided by value at close. That's what gives us, simple math, but that's what gives us that distance. What is the percent distance between our entry price and our stop loss? We want to know what that percentage is. That's the code that lets us know what the percentage is. So again, value at close minus long stop level divided by value at close. And keep in mind that value at close and long stop level are within parentheses. So that order of operations happens first, and then they get divided by value at close. Okay. All right, now we can finally code up our position size. All right, so we're going to create one more variable, and that's going to be called position size. And position size is going to equal, you guys might want to zoom in here, but position size is going to be equal to our distance to stop divided by our value at close, that value, loss divided by that, and then that whole thing divided by value at close. That is how we actually get the dollar position size that we want to take. We get the position size in the quote currency that we want to take. That has to be correct. You have to put it in just like that. The math matters. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong position size. So take your time, do this part right. This will be available for rewatching, and I'm going to be publishing all this code in a text format, so you guys will be able to see this later afterwards. So, but this part has to be correct. This whole position sizing part needs to be correct. It needs to be just like this for this to work. Okay, Now, due to TradingView limitations, I do recommend adding the following code just to handle edge cases. And this is just simply saying if position size is over 1 million, then position size equals 1 million. And if position size is under 0, position size equals 1. That first part helps you not run into TradingView size limitation. And that second part helps you not run into the strategy erroring out, because if for some reason, this is a worst case scenario, but let's say you automate an unprofitable strategy and it just drains your account down. Well, as it gets down to below 1, it might actually turn into a negative number. And TradingView can't handle the fact that you're trying to send it a negative number, and it will just error out the strategy. So by putting that in there, you avoid that problem. But you should avoid that problem in the first place by monitoring your strategy and by starting with a profitable strategy in the first place. So due diligence and monitoring will get you a long way in life in anything that you want to do. All right, so now we can go down and add to our strategy exit function. We can actually put our strategy entry function in so that it can accept our position size. Now, again, I showed you guys how to do this in the last video, but we're just going to pop this baby above our strategy exit. So now, previously we called strategy entry. Now we're calling previously we called strategy.exit. Now we're calling strategy.entry. And the name of our entry trade is going to be long. It's always going to be long. It's a strategy.long, which lets TradingView know that we're opening up long positions. When do we want to go long? When we get a long entry. That'll make sense here in just a second. And quantity, this is the important part. We're going to take position size and we're going to put quantity in. We're saying when we go long, this is how much we want to go long for. Okay. And our strategy exit is there to close out our trade when we hit our take profit and stop loss. Getting close. Now, I am going to add an additional failsafe to make sure my trades get closed by using a strategy.close function and reiterating what price must do to close out my trade. In this case, if price goes above my take profit level or below my stop loss level. I'm also going to make it close my trade in the event that our moving averages cross over the other direction, so that I'll be out of a long trade if the market direction turns on me. So I'm going to write a condition up here a variable called close function. And this is going to equal, now watch for this part because it's a little redundant, but it helps. Strategy.position entry name double equals, in quotes, single quotes, long, which is the name we gave our long trade down here is long. So we're referencing that trade. So we're saying if the position that we're currently in is this one, okay? And high is greater than long take level, okay? So if we go above our take profit level, we want to close the trade. Or strategy.position entry name equals long, and low is less than long stop level. So if we go below the stop loss, or strategy.position entry name equals long and slow down cross, which we actually took out of this code by accident. Here it is. Slow down cross. So again, we have a slow up cross. That's when our slow volume weighted moving average crosses over our slow simple moving average, and our slow down cross, which is when our slow volume weighted moving average crosses under our slow simple moving average. So we want to go long when we get an up cross, but we want to get out if we get a down cross, because it's possible that we get a down cross and we haven't hit our take profit or our stop loss, but we just want to get out of the trade in that position because trend is probably turning around on us and we don't want to be in a losing trade. All right, cool. So we've written our close function variable. Now we just need to put that in a strategy close function so that it will actually work. So we'll just go down here below our strategy.exit and we'll write strategy.close left parenthesis. And we're going to give this a name. We're going to call it long close. And, oh, excuse me. Let's call this long. My bad. We want to reference the, we want to reference the same entry. We want to close our entry. So this has to be long. I apologize. And then when equals close function. So we want this to happen whenever anything that we just described in our close function happens. This is going to reference my closing parameters. This will make the strategy close my trade if any of those arguments become true. If we go above the take profit, if we go below the stop loss, or if price switches. So one last thing. Let's make a variable called long entry. And let's set this equal to our entry signal, which is slow up cross, and time cond, which is our backtesting star range. Again, this is just so that we can see the correct P&L, and we can also set our strategy to enter when we want it to. Okay, it gives us more control over the strategy. All right, and then if you're following along using last week's code, then just come down to our strategy entry and change our when from slow up cross to our new long entry variable. Excellent. If you made it this far, let's do a quick test and make sure everything is working correctly. We'll just hit Control S and we'll save. And add this to our chart. So everything works. We're on the screen, no errors, everything compiled. We're all good. Save and load your strategy onto the chart and change your backtesting date range to November 1st, 2022. If you're using this exact, if you're following along with this exact example, as of current writing, we'll only have one signal. Let's make sure that this is working correctly. All right. So the strategy that we wrote up starts on November 1st. I want to make sure that the position sizing is correct. And as you can see here, we've taken a trade for $25.73. Well, was that the correct position size to take? Well, let's figure it out. Let's pull up the ATR indicator. Got the ATR indicator on the chart. We'll open up the data window so that we can see. The actual signal is always going to be on the previous bar, all right, from where the strategy enters. So just so you guys understand how TradingView works, if you're doing this, doesn't matter what time frame you're using this on, if this bar gets a signal, the signal will fire off at the open of the very next bar. So as you guys can see, there's this little blue arrow and it's pointing to the open price on this bar. So this bar has the values that we want to double check. So let's double check. We have a ATR value of 839.98, 839.98. So let's pull up calculator. 839.98. 839.98 plus what was the closing price of this candle? 16,226.94. 16,226.94. 17,066.92. That looks pretty darn right. Let's go to our strategy tester and go to our trading panel. List of trades. So this is where our TP was, and we got it at 17,067.66. All right. So pretty spot on. So we've got our take profit working as we should. And now let's figure out if that was the correct position size. We will use the Cracking Cryptocurrency Position Size Calculator. So again, what was our entry price? 16,226.94. Which means our take profit, or excuse me, our stop loss would have been 839.98 times 1.5. So 1,259. So we take our entry price, 16,226.94 minus 1,259.97, 14,966.97. Our stop loss, 2% risk. We should have a position size of $25.75. Distance to stop loss is 7.76%. $25.75. I believe that's what we took right here. $25.73. So we've got the correct position size. We've got the correct take profit. Everything is working properly. All right, excellent. So we've got our correct position size. We've got our correct take profit. We've got our correct stop loss. Bang on. Congratulations. If you've done this, you have successfully written a strategy with a dynamic take profit and stop loss and position sizing using the average true range and a little math. Now we've just got one last step. We need to put in the code that will actually allow us to send these signals to our 3Commas bots. Hopefully you guys are excited, because I sure am. We're almost done. All right, let's make 3 new variables in our code. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to make 3 new variables. And this is going to be automation stuff. We're going to call these buy alert, exit alert, and add alert. All right, so now we can go back over to 3Commas and grab our message for deal start signal. Again, you can just click on this text, or you can click on the text in the drop-down box. When you hit show, it will copy to your clipboard. Just a little tip here. Do not publicly display for anybody what your email token is. If anybody gets this email token, they could automate their own TradingView signals and have them trade in your account. You don't want to do that. So we're going to grab this message for deal start signal. We're going to go back over to TradingView, and we're going to, for our buy alert, we're going to put in a single quote. We're going to paste that in there, and that's automatically going to paste into the end of our single quote. All right. That's what it's going to look like right there. There's our buy alert. All good to go. Now go back to 3Commas. We're going to grab our message to close order at market price code. Oh, whoops. That's all deals. Sorry, we want this one. We want the second one. Message to close order at market price. You can click here or you can click here. Doesn't matter. Back over to TradingView. And that is going to be, after a single quote and a paste, that is going to be our exit alert. Okay. Finally, last step, we are going to grab this code right here, message for deal, add fund signals in the quote currency. You can click here or you can click here, doesn't matter. And go back to TradingView, and we're going to do a single quote, paste. That is going to be our add signal, but we need to do a little something here for the deal add signal. All right. Again, just want to double check here. Make sure you grab the message to add deal funds in the quote currency, not the base currency. That would be bad. Okay, that would be bad. All right. It would be bad if you wanted to add $1,000 to the trade and you added 1,000 Bitcoin to the trade. That would be bad. That would be bad. Okay. All right. So now we need to use a technique called string concatenation to tie in our dynamic position sizing code. So in our add alert, our add alert, we're going to come over here to the right, and we're going to go to the part where it says volume, and by default it says 10. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that 10, and then we're going to press backspace so that we're right after the colon, and we're going to do a single quote. Okay, you'll see it automatically creates another single quote. That's fine. We're going to press space. We're going to do a plus sign, str dot TOSTRING, string to string, left parenthesis, and here we're going to reference our position size variable. Right parenthesis, space, plus space. That's it. Ooh, we forgot to put a space here after string to string. Not really necessary. You don't need the spaces, but I just like my code to be nice and pretty. So all we're doing is, this is a JSON message is what this is. So all we're doing is we're interrupting it, and then we're using this process called string concatenation to insert our position size code as a string so it can be read and sent along in proper JSON format. And then we're closing that up. They will receive this message, and instead of having some default value in there, it will be whatever position size your strategy is generating. This is where the magic happens right here. Okay. Now we're actually sending the actual position sizes we want to take to 3Commas. Now, there is one last step. We need to create 3 if statements to actually trigger these alerts in the TradingView strategy. This will be the actual trigger that causes our strategy to actually send the alerts that we want to 3Commas when the things happen on the chart. So they're going to look like this. So if space long entry, and then you'll hit enter, and then tab, okay? And then you'll write alert, left parenthesis, by string. Oh, excuse me, I have by string. Should be by alert. My bad. By alert. And then alert frequency once per bar, because I only want it to fire once per bar. And then if close function, alert, exit alert. Oops. Alert frequency once per bar. If long entry, alert, add alert. Okay. Now, I will throw, so these are the if functions that will actually send the strategy alerts, will actually send the messages to 3Commas. Okay, and that's it. All the code is done. Now we just need to enable alerts. Okay, but before we do that, I just want to put in an aside here. Some of you might experience issues with the add fund signal. Now, I've done this a bunch of times, and sometimes it happens. It just seems to be random depending on the market or sometimes the strategy. So one thing that fixes it, and I wouldn't recommend doing this by default, first see if you have the issue. And by issue, I mean, is it not adding the position size that you need? It's taking the trade and it's exiting, but it's not sizing you up. Then in this add alert JSON, come over here to where it says delay seconds and put about a 6-second delay. Oh, sorry, not a 65-second, a 6-second delay on there. That way, when TradingView gets the buy signal, it's getting the add alert signal in the exact same second because it's coming in on the exact same signal, basically. So now then it's just telling it, wait 6 seconds before you do this. So again, this rarely happens, but there's a few strategies that I've automated where it hasn't properly added the correct position size. So adding in that delay seconds 6 fixed it. All right. So do that if you have issues. I haven't had any other issues except for that. All right. So we're just going to save this and we are good to go. Now we just need to add the alerts and everything will be good. Make sure you're on the market and the time frame that you want your strategy to trade on. So if you're doing it on the daily, do it on the daily. Again, for me, I'm going to be doing this on Link USDT on Bybit. So I'm going to go to the Bybit chart and I'm going to be automating this on the daily. Now, just right click anywhere on the chart and hit add alert. Okay. So for our condition, we're going to click this drop down and we are going to select the strategy that we just created. You would probably only see one here. I obviously have a bunch on here, but this is the strategy that we just created. So we're going to select that strategy. In the next drop down, and this is important, click it and click alert function calls only. Remember, we just wrote our own custom alert function calls. So those are the only alerts we want to trigger alerts. That's it. Now you can set an expiration time for your strategy, or you can click open-ended, which means it will run forever. And then for your alert actions, you can disable show pop-up and disable play sound. And you have to enable, you have to click webhook URL and you have to put in this webhook URL. It's app.3commas.io/trade_signal/trading_view. This is available on 3Commas website. This is the public webhook URL that everybody uses to send a strategy signal to TradingView. What makes it different is the email token in your JSON message. Our add alert, our buy alert, our exit alert. Your email token that's in there is what makes it unique to your account. That's why you can't share your email token. Doing this for demonstration purposes only. Taking one for the team. And then name your alert something, reasonable. VWMA, SMA, automated 3Commas strategy. Okay. And then just hit create. And you go to your alerts and you will see your automated strategy right there. And you can see your alert log right here. Obviously, I have a lot of strategies running. SDDMA, bottom feeder, my ISIS bot, my VWMA SMA bot that I'm actually running. So the nice thing is once you get an alert, it'll be triggered there. Now you can click on your alert here in your alerts window. So this is the one we just created. Click the settings. I highly recommend this. Like, click on show pop-up, click on play sound, especially if this is your first time or if you're setting up new bots, so that you don't forget about this, because this is kind of set it and forget it. So you don't forget. So that way, once an alert actually goes off, you can come in and make sure that everything works properly. And if you have made it this far, congratulations. Your strategy is now fully automated, complete with a dynamic stop loss and take profit and dynamic position sizing. Now, before we conclude, I do want to talk about best practices for botting automated strategies. First, you want to be very careful about your position size. As the distance to your stop loss tightens, your position sizes will get larger. If you don't have the necessary capital, if you have the wrong leverage settings, or if you have the position size set wrong, or set your alert on the wrong time frame, big mistakes can happen. When setting up a bot for the first time, don't just set it and forget it. You need to carefully monitor it for quite some time to make sure everything is going as planned. Remember, this is real money that you're trading, and you want to make sure that the robot is handling it properly. Now, if you set up everything like I showed you, the bot will do everything right. You need to make sure that in your own strategy, you're telling the bot when to do what you want it to do. Okay? You have to make sure you do the code right. Botting is an entirely different breed of trading, and while it does automate a lot of manual labor you would otherwise have to do, it's not as simple as set it and forget it in the beginning. Okay. And still not at the end. I bought tons of strategies and they are very profitable for me, but I am continually looking at my strategies, trying to improve them, modifying them as market conditions change. There's only a few bots that I have on set it and forget it, and that is after years of coding and experience. The majority of my bots I turn on and off based on my discretion and based upon market conditions. However, you now have all the tools and knowledge you need to automate your successful strategy. I don't wish you luck. I wish you a lot of hard work and perseverance, because that is the pathway to profit. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to push the thumbs up button. Lets me know you liked it and also incentivizes me to make more great content. And at the same time, if you're down there, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another trading video. If you want more content, check out these suggested videos to your side, and we'll see you on the next one.